Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Even I don't give a fuck where I've been for the past few weeks. The point is, I'm back now, and I'm here to break down UFC Fight Night 267, Strickland versus Hernandez. Okay, opening up the card, or at least my video, because I'm a Sherdog guy, is Ramiz Brahimaj versus Punahale Soriano. I doubt this is going to open up the card. My prediction here is Soriano wins. I'm going with him winning by decision. I think Puna's looked really good at welterweight, and I think he's capable of being the wrestler more at welterweight. And I think he's going to use his welterweight strength and physicality, and I think he's going to use his wrestling to keep this fight standing. I think Brahimaj is not going to be able to go through him so easily with his grappling. He's still got incredibly dangerous submissions, so Soriano's got to watch out for the traps there. I do think Brahimaj's, I can't say sole path to victory, but primary path far and away is submission. And of course, just look at his record if you don't believe me. He's got 12 submissions out of 13 victories. But he can snatch your neck from any possible direction, so Soriano's got to be careful. But without falling into any traps, I think he keeps himself safe, takes away a lot of the grappling of Brahimaj, and beats him up on the feet. I imagine Brahimaj is going to be getting in his face. I don't think it'll be the cleanest striking battle. I think it's going to be a dirty fight. But I think Soriano certainly gets the bigger moments with the better striking and the much more concussive power, although Mickey Gall might disagree, I suppose. But I also think Punahale Soriano does win the points battle. The outside striking, not that I expect this to be, again, a jousting match. Brahimaj is going to be trying to tire out Punahale Soriano with pressure, if not get him down with pressure. But I do think even in tight there, Soriano's going to be tough to physically bully, and he's still going to be more dangerous. And I envision him pulling away with this fight, roughing up Brahimaj, but getting a taste of that toughness, because Brahimaj, unless his ear is detached from his head, he's probably not going to get finished. And I think Soriano, instead of putting his foot on the gas, he's going to try to slow things down. So slow things down, keep your neck safe, and win by decision. That's the prediction. I got Punahale Soriano winning. I will look to bet on him. I don't see the odds on DraftKings, but I see the odds elsewhere, and he's a slight underdog, which is good enough for me because he's my pick. But I do have faith in the durability of Brahimaj and also the submission prowess. Again, I think that's his only path to victory. So I might look to cover that with a sprinkle, and also I'll look to the point spread, the decision prop, and all the horse shit. But in general, I'm going with Punahale Soriano, and his money line is good enough for me. Okay, up next we have Jean-Paul Mufasa Lebosnoyani taking on Philip Rowe. My prediction here is Jean-Paul wins. I'm going to go with him winning by decision. I'm probably not going to bet on him at all. He's a 2-1 favorite, and I don't think I'm going to look to shave down his line with any sort of props. The pick is decision because Phil Rowe is generally very durable, but Jean Paul's got skills in every direction. He's a very dangerous guy, so I'll just pick him to win by decision. As for the bet, Phil Rowe is a plus 170 underdog. I haven't bet on him either, but I'm going to wait for the props and play his side of things with a few sprinkles. Him winning down the stretch. Rounds 2 and 3. Probably I'll play TKO. That's my, prediction. No, my prediction is he loses by decision. But you know what I mean? I think if Phil Rowe does pull the upset, it would be a late TKO. But I'll wait to see the props to see if I should go with TKO or rounds 2 and 3 flat, because Phil Rowe's a good grappler himself. But I am picking against Phil Rowe here. And the basis for the prediction is the athleticism of Jean Paul. Both guys have danger in every direction, but Jean Paul is much better athletically and much sharper technically on the feet. Phil Rowe is going to be doing the long, tall basketball player routine. And he's dangerous, and he knows how to use his weapons. But Jean Paul is faster. I think he's going to take away the reach advantage of Phil Rowe with his athleticism. I've got him having the advantage there, jousting and getting to Phil Rowe first. And I think Jean Paul is going to, much like I said in the first fight with Brahimaj, get a taste of the toughness of Phil Rowe and maybe a bit of the danger and start finding himself fighting for a decision. But the bet will be on Phil Rowe showing Jean Paul that next level, that UFC level, drowning him and taking him out down the stretch. Jean Paul's been defeated twice. They're both TKOs. He was knocked out against Spike Carlisle 6 years ago now, almost 7. Knocked out with a big right hand and then put away with ground and pound. He was taking it to Spike. He was the much sharper striker with much better technique, and he clipped Spike Carlisle. Couldn't put him away, poured it on him though, and then ended up getting clipped with a big shot and couldn't recover. His next loss came 3 years ago almost against Jacobe Jones. It's a round 2 TKO. The ref did stop it. It's a legit TKO, but his face was smashed. It wasn't like he quit, and it wasn't like he was overwhelmed positionally, but he was in a bad position and he was being smashed, and the ref stopped the fight. But my point is, by saying all that, I don't think he's got quit in him with his chin getting clipped and that round 2 TKO loss to Jacobe Jones. I don't see any quit in Jean Paul. But they are 2 legitimate losses. The loss here to Jones, he had his face smashed. I forget what smashed it, but he has his nose smashed pretty badly, and he was in a bad spot after a pretty tough first round. It wasn't like it was a lopsided or anything, but Jacobe Jones, I thought, was taking it to him. And it was one where he never got going, got put in some bad spots. His grappling wasn't there for him. And if he was looking for it to be, he was too bloody and slippery at that point anyway, and he got TKO'd. But Phil Rowe, his last 5 victories, I believe, are all TKOs. He's got 7 TKOs altogether, and 5 of them come in his last 5 victories, all in the UFC or Dana White's Contender Series. And each and every one of them's in round 2, if not round 3, on the second half of the fight. And I think Phil Rowe, if he's able to show Jean Paul that next level, slow him down, get in his face where that athleticism is no longer a thing, Phil Rowe can do that thing we've seen him do against Ange Losa, Nico Price, 2 great round 3 finishes, especially the Losa fight, because that was much more of a distinct comeback. Against Nico, it was still back and forth, and he was hurt in that fight, but he had a lot more control throughout that fight. But the Ange Losa fight, his most recent victory, shows that Phil Rowe, smack dab in the middle of his 30s, he's still got a lot of traits, and you can't relax with this guy, even in round 3 of a comfortable fight. So Phil Rowe winning down the stretch will be my sprinkles. He's a plus 170 underdog, but I've got Jean Paul winning by decision. That's my official prediction. I won't look to cover that with any sort of bet. Jean Paul's dangerous enough on his own to stop the decision from becoming a reality. But I still think that's the most likely outcome, is Phil Rowe being really tough, but really up against it athletically, and Jean Paul getting the better of him, piecing him up mostly on the feet and winning a decision. Next up, we have Luis Gurule taking on Alden Coria, who probably should have a brighter picture here on Sherdog. My prediction here is Alden Coria wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is I really like the way he looked against Alessandro Costa in a fight that I got so fucking wrong. It makes me sick to think about it. But I also think I know Alden Coria is the bigger man, and I think he's the sharper guy in the feet. I really like that jab against Costa. And I think Gurule is going to be trying to make this a grimy fight, get in tight, although maybe not too tight because I think Alden Coria is the better grappler, submission grappler, certainly. But I think Coria is going to have an answer for him. I like the answer he had for Alessandro Costa when Costa got in tight and took his back with both hooks in. He ended up turning in, reversing them, and taking back that round with some good ground and pound. And here against Luis Gurule, I think he's going to have an answer for everything. I think Gurule's best course of action will be to try to clinch up, make this a grimy, clinch, dirty fight, and slow things down. But Coria, he's better on the outside. I think he's the better, certainly longer technical striker. I think even on the inside, I know Gurule is more grimy, but Alden Coria's got leverage on his side in the clinch. And on the ground, without top position being the be all end all, which it often is the be all end all of fights. But I think Alden Coria is the better grappler. Luis Gurule got a nice submission before coming to the UFC, his lone submission win. And Alden Coria has been submitted by a really good submission artist. But I've got Alden Coria winning this fight. I've got him keeping Gurule off of him, having an answer in some tough spots, and being the better striker on the outside with the bigger frame. So his jab wins him a decision is the pick, and it is not the bet. He's minus 278. I think I'm sitting this one out, but I'll wait for the props and see if anything jumps at me. Next up, we've got Carly Judice taking on Juliana Miller. My prediction for this fight is Carly Judice wins, and I'm going to go with her winning by TKO in round 2. I'm fairly confident in that prediction, but not so much the round 2 part. That's more just horse shit. But I do have Carly winning. I think she's looked incredible so far in victory and in defeat. And I think she's going to keep Juliana Miller off of her and rough her up at range. Juliana is going to be trying to make this a physical fight and be the grappler. And Carly Judice, she's been taken down plenty of times, but I still can't say I have the firmest grasp on her grappling. So that's why, especially considering how Juliana fights, she's one of those drowning grapplers. And considering especially her money line at plus 500, assuming the props will reflect that, I am going to look to play Juliana Miller winning down the stretch, getting on top of Carly Judice when she's tired, and Juliana advancing and putting her away. But in general, I don't think I'll be betting on my prediction, which is Carly wins by TKO. I have to see the props, but all 5 of her professional wins are by knockout. So everybody's onto it by now. And that's probably why she's a 7-1 favorite, which is also another reason why I probably won't look to play any props or anything at all. But I have a lot of faith in Carly Judice. Again, she showed every trait in the book against Gabriela Fernandez and Ernesta Carrascate. Every trait, split decision losses to both of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if she meets either one of them down the road and if she's the favorite in that matchup. Although Gabriela Fernandez is really surging right now, and she's on a good winning streak. So who knows where she's going. But yeah, 5 TKOs, 3 meaningless wins before those 2 losses. But 2 good UFC victories. Knocked out Yunesi Dubin with a head kick and put away Nicole Cariati with a knee to the body. Juliana Miller, though, she's the Ultimate Fighter winner, season 20 fuck, against Brogan Walker. And that precise win is what I would expect, that Brogan Walker type of win. And she's that type of fighter. She does have that suffocating grappling, if you'll allow her to grapple. The thing is, she's not always allowed to grapple because she's not the most physically imposing fighter. Frankly, neither is Carly Judice. They're both longer, taller, whatever. But Carly, I think, is the stronger girl and the better athlete. And I think she's going to dictate where this fight goes. But, of course, if I'm wrong, like I said, Juliana Miller, I think she's a suffocating type of grappler, where not that she's a better grappler than Gabriela Fernandez, but I still think she could perhaps do more with takedowns. So I'll look to play some horseshit sprinkles. But in general, I've got this fight not going her way. I've got it being kind of like the Veronica Hardy fight combined with the Luana Santos fight. Because, again, my pick is Carly Judice gets it done with her danger, her long range danger. I think uh, either one of these girls could find themselves in a bad spot down the stretch if the fight's not going their way. And I've got Carly Judice, the fight going her way, and I've got her beating down Juliana Miller. So round 2 TKO is the prediction. Probably not going to look to cover that prediction with any sort of bet at all. And like I said, I'll be excited to waste some meaningless sprinkles. Up next, we have Carlos Leal Miranda taking on Chidi and Jacobe. My prediction for this fight is Carlos Leal wins, and I've got him winning by decision. And the basis for my prediction is he was knocked out in July. That's the basis. He's only ever been finished by strikes once, and it was in July in his last fight. And that might not bode well for him. That might be the end of him, for all I know. But he is still 31 years old, almost 32, theoretically in his prime. And I think he's given himself enough time to recover. And I expect him to come in tip-top shape. And having been knocked out, of course, I think he's going to be even more cautious. And I expect him to try to slow this fight down, not to try to take too many risks. I think he might open up when he finds the right range on Chidi. You know, he's going to have that middle range, I imagine. But I think Chidi is always going to be dangerous in tight and certainly at range, where he's got the height, the reach, and the dynamicism, if that's a word. But Chidi, especially early on, especially around the 42-second mark, where Muslim Salikov beat Carlos Leal Miranda, Chidi is exceptionally dangerous when he's firing on all cylinders. But I do have to favor Carlos Leal Miranda. I think Carlos Leal Miranda is going to be uh, grinding to a decision victory. The more likely grappler, I think. I can't say he's the better grappler. I've been critical of Chidi's grappling in the past. Him melting in certain fights, and I'm not even talking about Jake Matthews, even though I picked him to lose by submission, I think. But he's melted, I felt, in the past and previous losses throughout his career. But he is still a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I just think Carlos Leal Miranda, having been knocked out, having fought Sadabusi twice, and seen how he's fought him, I think he's going to be trying to mix in more grappling. Certainly making this a more physical fight. I think he's physically stronger than Chidi. And I think in tight, in that middle range, he's got better power and overall better striking when it's about hooks in tight. But Chidi's got elbows in tighter, and he's got spinning elbows out longer and all kinds of crazy shit. I think Chidi's very much in this fight. I'd give him the first knockout between the two, frankly, even though he's approaching 40 years old and he's been rocked a few times before. But I do think even in the decision, the fight I'm envisioning is still a close fight. I think Carlos Leal Miranda is going to be trying not to get hurt early and trying to fight his way on the inside. And then once he gets that physical strength involved, make this more of a grappling match. I don't think he's going to have the grappling to go through Chidi. I don't think he's going to get a submission or a dominant position. But I think he's going to be going back to the well and just trying to tighten things up. Chidi, I would pick him to win by decision over knockout, but the top pick overall between the two guys, all six options, I'm going with Carlos Leal Miranda winning by decision. I've bet on him at toss-up odds. I will look for the props, but I don't really have faith in either guy's durability considering all the circumstances. So the money line's probably where I'll be most comfortable. Next up, we have Alibi Idiris taking on O'Day Osborne. My prediction for this fight is O'Day Osborne wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I'm not too confident in that prediction, certainly not the method of victory. O'Day Osborne's got skills in every direction. But I do think Alibi is still a very good fighter, despite how he looked against Joseph Morales. And I don't think O'Day Osborne is going to be able to follow that wrestle boxer blueprint of Joseph Morales. I think this is going to be a totally different fight. But despite liking Alibi more than most probably do after that Joseph Morales loss, I've seen every fight I can get my hands on with Alibi. I think he's shown a lot of traits, and I think the anomaly throughout his career is the Joseph Morales fight. Not that I'm trying to say he stubbed his toe in the locker room or whatever. Joseph Morales just kicked his ass, but he's still proven himself against moderate to good competition for a while now. And of course, on the Ultimate Fighter with two really good victories. But O'Day Osborne, despite being 1-7 in his last 8 or whatever, it's not pretty. 1-4 in his last 5. Despite all of that, I've always had faith in the skills of O'Day Osborne. I've had some doubts in him. He's been knocked out a few times, twice here against really fucking dangerous guys, though, and he's been submitted before as well, despite having a really good, dangerous guard himself. I do think he's not perfect, but I do think he is still a very viable athlete at 34 years old. He just turned 34 last month, and he's been mixing it up with great competition. That's really the basis for my prediction is UFC levels. There's levels to this game, dog. That's the basis for the fucking prediction. There's levels to this game, son. That's the basis. I think O'Day Osborne is not going to replicate the success of Joseph Morales. I think he's still really dangerous on the outside, though. A really sharp athlete, a really good kicker, just a totally different striker. And I do think he's still a really good grappler as well. He's not always the most reliable wrestler, but he certainly got it in him. And I just think he's got a chance of getting the knockout, of course. He's dangerous as fuck. And in a battle of 15 minutes, these two scratching and clawing for a decision. I think O'Day's skills get the better of Alibi. So O'Day Osborne is the pick, and O'Day Osborne is the small bet at, again, underdog odds, plus 114. Next up, we have Nora Cornale taking on Joselyne Edwards. My prediction for this fight is Edwards wins, and I'm going to go with her winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is that's what I thought happened the first time when these two fought back in September of 2023. So 2.5 years ago, they fought. Nora Cornale won a decision, pretty bad decision. I mean, not even the decision you could argue should have gone her way, but no way should she have won all 3 rounds. I think on 2 judges' scorecards, and this was in France. So there's that, but also Joselyne Edwards has looked great as of late. She had that loss to Eileen Perez after that. And then since then, she's gotten 3 finishes after a UFC career full of decision victories and nothing but, and decision losses as well. But now it's 3 straight finishes. She got Tamiris Vidal out of there at the end of the fight and then steamrolled Chelsea Chandler and Priscilla Cachoeira. So she's looked incredible as of late. I don't think she's going to steamroll Nora Cornale. I think this is a much closer fight than that because Nora, she's really tough, never been put away despite being hurt and despite being put in a ton of shitty positions because she's not she doesn't have the best grappling defense or wrestling defense in the first place. But Nora's never been put away, and she's got that fight in her where she showed it in their first fight in round 2, nearly securing a choke. I mean, she secured her back anyway, but she was still fighting very hard to the bitter end in that round, and she may have swung that round for her. I think she did. She definitely did on at least one, if not two judges' scorecards. But, or maybe all three. I don't fucking know. But Nora Cornale is a better grappler than she's given credit for as well. Not just with that sequence there, but also the way she handles herself in bad spots, and also the victory she got over Haley Cowan, which I believe is her second submission victory. Yes, number 2. And I called it. But I do think here I'd be surprised if she got a finish like that over Joselyne Edwards, because even though Nora Canale is very dangerous and 10 times more dangerous on the feet, I still think Joselyne is very durable altogether. She's got a rock solid chin, seems to have a good body as well. I'm talking about defensively. And she's been submitted once, but it was early in her career, and she avenged the loss with a submission over the girl herself. So I think this fight is going to be a scratch and claw fight to a decision, but I've got Joselyne Edwards looking great as of late, and certainly knowing the path to victory for against Nora Cornale. And not that it was easy, and not that it was a lock, but if there was a 30-27, it should have gone the other way, because Joselyne Edwards had grappling advantages over Nora Cornale throughout that whole fight. Again, aside from that one small sequence. But I think she's going to go back to that. Well, she can't rely on head and arm throws. I think in general she's a better wrestler, but Nora Cornale is going to be aware of her different attacks, and I think it's going to be twice as hard. But I still think the gap was twice as big, and Joselyne Edwards is going to win by being the better grappler here. And I have not bet on Joselyne Edwards because she is a very big favorite, wherever the hell she is here. Minus 325. It's not as big as I thought it was. But I still think I'm going to wait to see everything because despite her having an advantage on the ground, I still would be surprised if she put Nora Cornale away. So I'll wait for the decision props, the point spread, the horse shit. But the pick is Joselyne Edwards wins by decision. Up next, we have Yadier Del Valle taking on Jordan Leavitt. My prediction for this fight is Yadier Del Valle wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by submission. And I'm going to go with it happening at the end of round 1. I don't know why I have to distinguish between the end of round 1 and round 1 altogether. But I'm going to go with Yadier Del Valle winning by submission in round 1. And I do look, I think that's the most likely outcome. I think both guys are good grapplers, but I just think it ends with the submission. But I do think Yadier Del Valle is a distinctly better striker. Not that he's even so sharp technically, because he's a guy who likes to get in there and brawl and make it about the hooks. But I still think altogether he's got more to offer. Jordan Leavitt, he is dropping down to featherweight here, which should help mitigate some of his physicality problems that he faced up at lightweight. He's not the most imposing guy, but I still think he's not going to be able to physically bully Yadier Del Valle, and I don't think he's going to be able to technically bully him either. I just think Yadier Del Valle's got him with the grappling and on the feet. Again, not that Yadier Del Valle is perfect, but I just think he's got a little more to offer than Jordan Leavitt, even though Jordan Leavitt is definitely one of those tricky guys who's capable of surprising. If I saw any weakness in Yadier Del Valle throughout his career, I might be harping on it. I might be looking to play the Jordan Leavitt side of things because he's a 3-1 underdog. He's plus 320, just the money line available right now. But I wouldn't be able to tell you. I guess I would pick him to win by decision before anything else, but I've never seen Yadier Del Valle lose. I've seen him put him in some bad spots and have some rough rounds, but he's passed every test, going back to a nice victory over Michael Aswell in 2023. But yeah, he's had hard-fought decision victories, TKOs, good submissions. He's gotten 2 in the UFC, 1.5 maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that win over Isaac Dogarian last fight was bullshit. I did call it, so I really wanted it not to be bullshit, but it was bullshit. But nevertheless, it's no stain on Yadier Del Valle and his skills, and I think he's just going to be too sharp for Jordan Leavitt. I think Jordan Leavitt is going to be trying to outlast and slow down Yadier Del Valle, but I don't think he's going to have any clear opening, any clear path to victory to win this fight. I think he runs into problems everywhere. Yadier starts to beat him up a little bit on the feet and then gets him in a bad spot and strangles him. Yadier Del Valle's got really good submissions in every direction, seeing him hit a lot of different subs. But I'm going to go with him winning conventionally here, taking the back and strangling Jordan Leavitt with his third consecutive UFC rear naked choke. Although, again, this one will be legitimate. He is minus 410. I have not bet on Yadier Del Valle. I will wait for the props and see if there's anything worth playing. But in general, I think I'm staying away from this one altogether, especially because you never know if anyone's taking a dive. All right. Up next, we have Michel Pereira taking on Zachary Reese. My prediction for this fight is Michel Pereira wins. And I'm going to go with him winning by cough drops. I'm going to go with him winning by TKO in round one. And I'm not too confident in that prediction. I do think there's a lot of doubt with Michel Pereira. He's got a lot of mileage on him anyway, but certainly no momentum at this point. He's coming off of 3 consecutive losses. Of course, one of them is to the guy in the main event. So it's not like he's been fighting shitty competition, but he was just knocked out against Kyle Dawkins back in August. And that was a big surprise to me. Not just because I had faith in Michel Pereira's chin, but also because I had a little faith in the striking prowess of Kyle Dawkins. But Michel Pereira, the basis for the prediction is what he's already done. First of all, he's still only 32 years old, even though he's been fighting for a while in the UFC now. But this is the guy that steamrolled Andre Petroski, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, Ihor Potieria. But he's also won hard-fought decisions over some of the better welterweights. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Chaos Williams, Nico Price, Andre Fiallo. But some very good welterweights. I think here he's still well-equipped to handle himself at middleweight. But Zachary Reese is the bigger man. He's probably bitter, too, after those rough losses. And Zachary Reese also has solid athleticism. He's a bigger guy, a good athlete. I think Michel Pereira is a little stronger and certainly faster. But I do think Zachary Reese could prove to be a difficult matchup for him, taking away some of his best attributes anyway. And Zachary Reese, I'm also picking against him just in general because of the doubt on his side. He's 10-2, not the most seasoned fighter, certainly not compared to Michel Pereira. And he has been finished twice in the UFC. He was slammed against Cody Brundage right after Drakkar Klose got that slam knockout over Joe Selecki, I think. And he was also knocked out last year against Azamat Bakoyev. I do like that he's fought longer fights since coming to the UFC. When Zachary Reese came into the UFC, all I had to lean on as far as his cardio was a loss that I never saw as an amateur to Kevin Holland, where he lost by decision. I thought that's got to be impressive. He didn't get finished losing to him. But since making it to the UFC, he's fought some longer fights. He won 2 decisions over Jose Medina and Dusko Todorovic. Not the best names, although one of them is the first guy to TKO his opponent, Michel Pereira. That's Dusko Todorovic. But I still like the way he looked, even though he didn't get the finish over Dusko. I thought it was a really good look winning a 3-rounder, especially in that fight. It was a lot more impressive than the Jose Medina fight, where I thought Zachary Reese clearly outlasted Dusko. Dusko, who's trying to go the grappling route and found some success. He wasn't able to close the show, and Zachary Reese was the better man down the stretch, which I did not expect. I remember thinking Zachary Reese, who had 3 fewer fights at that point, I thought he wouldn't outlast Dusko. I thought Dusko would be the better MMA guy down the stretch. He also got a nice second round victory, which is rare for him in his last fight against Jackson McVeigh. I thought that was a great showcase of his traits, a really gritty, bloody, grimy victory. Got a nice rear naked choke at the end of round 2, but he was roughed up in that fight. Jackson McVeigh, who just wants to get you in the clinch and beat the shit out of you, he did that to him, and he was having a lot of success beating up Zachary Reese. But Zachary Reese hung in there, kept himself safe, and much like he did to Dusko, he outlasted Jackson McVeigh. Only he closed the show, and I believe there was some last minute, short notice horse shit going on in that fight for somebody. But still, the fight happened the way it happened. Zachary Reese has a lot of potential. He's been showing new wrinkles and looking good in the UFC, but I still have too much doubt in him. And in the past, I've had a lot of faith in Michel Pereira. So the faith and the doubt and all that horse shit is why I'm going with Michel Pereira. But again, not a lot of momentum. And that knockout loss to Kyle Dawkins looked like it could have been a pivotal loss. So I'm not the most confident guy, and I'm not confident enough to have bet on Michel Pereira at minus 162. This is one where I do expect a finish, but I could see this one going the distance as well. I won't be looking to play the over-under, probably not any props either. I think I'm just staying away from this and hoping Michel Pereira wins for the sake of my prediction. Next up, we have Josiah Harrell making his UFC debut, again, taking on Jacobe Smith. My prediction here at the top is Jacobe Smith wins, and he wins by decision. But this is another one of those fights where I'm picking this guy maybe by this way, but the other guy's got these traits, so maybe I'm going to sprinkle on that. And then there's doubt with this and short notice horse shit and all kinds of long-winded horse shit. I'm going to get long-winded here. But yeah, I'm picking Jacobe Smith. I'm picking him to win by decision. That's the outcome that seems to be most reasonable to me, even though it makes no sense when you look at these guys' records. But I do think Jacobe Smith's size is going to be the difference. And of course, I think he's able to make it a thing on the ground and on the feet as well. He's got 3 inches of height and 5 inches of reach and good hands. Even though Josiah Harrell, as I'll get into, he's got some good striking as well, sharp kicking game. But I think Jacobe Smith is going to have a hard time going through Josiah Harrell. I don't envision him getting a finish, but I think he's going to be able to get him down and stuff his guard. I think Josiah Harrell has a lot more to offer grappling-wise. I think he's definitely the better grappler than Jacobe Smith. But I still think I know Jacobe Smith is the bigger man. So I've got the bigger man and the wrestling being the story of the fight. But Josiah Harrell has a bunch of great traits. Normally, a guy, even with 11 wins, which is not too shabby, 11 fights, but a guy that's 11-0 coming into the UFC that has 10 finishes, I wouldn't have too much faith in that guy. Or I'd be looking to have more doubt in his cardio, plainly speaking. But Josiah Harrell has 10 finishes, and the majority of them come down the stretch. I think 8 of them come in rounds 2 and 3, which is an excellent look for a guy coming into the UFC. Not that it means it's a lock. He's got great cardio, but it's a great sign. Now, I haven't seen every one of these fights, and you know me. I try to see every fight I can get my hands on. And I broke down Josiah Harrell a few years ago. He was going to make his UFC debut against Jack Della Maddalena before he A medical test revealed that he had some sort of brain thing going on. You could tell I really read all of the big words and retained them. But he had that issue taken care of. I believe he even had surgery. Again, you could tell I really did a deep dive here. No, but I remember the fight being canceled, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see him back. He's back. He's on an 11 fight winning streak, but since then he's won 4 fights, 2 late finishes, 1 early finish, and his 1 decision victory, which is another great look for him. And I've seen these fights, and I have more faith in him. I really think this guy's got a lot of great traits as a fighter. I think he's got skills in every direction. I consider him to be the better grappler than Jacobe Smith, even though he's giving up leverage and size. And I think he's a good wrestler himself, Josiah Harrell. I mean, he's the guy who against who the hell was it? I don't know. Against somebody, he drove the guy through the cage with a double leg in round 3. I think it was Michael Roberts. Yeah, Michael Roberts. And he drove him through the cage in round 3. Good to see that power double after 10, 15 minutes of fighting. And I think on the feet, he's also skilled as well. I think Josiah Harrell has a really good kicking game, really sharp kicks with both legs. And he can work him, I believe, from both stances, even though he's generally a southpaw. But he's got a really good kicking game, which is good because he needs all the range he can get. Because on the feet, he is giving up height and reach. Jacobe Smith is 3 inches taller, I think, and 5 inches longer. And Jacobe Smith's got good hands with some serious pop in his punches, more reliable pop than Josiah Harrell even. So I got this being the fight where the height and the leverage and all that shit comes to haunt Josiah Harrell and hands him his first loss. You know, he's a guy who's definitely not the more natural welterweight between the two. But there's no real doubt with him, technically, or whatever you want to call it, spiritually, his fighter spirit. This guy's got every trait in the book, got an excellent comeback victory over Tracy Reeder. That was a fight where I thought his size could have haunted him there, where Tracy Reeder was out wrestling him, took him down, was stuffing his guard, beating him up. He actually hit him with an illegal knee, too, which really fucked him up, it seemed like. And Josiah chose to fight when he didn't need to and came back, got taken down, got his guard stuffed, but then hit a reversal. Got a nice underhook and hit a half guard sweep reversal and took him down and closed the show with his own jiu-jitsu advantage very quickly. That was a really good win. Kind of like Randy Couture versus Kevin Randleman. One guy could handle being on the bottom, the other guy couldn't. And also, it was a great display of a bunch of awesome traits. I know that isn't too deep into the fight. That's only the 8-minute mark where he closed the show. But in a fight that wasn't going his way, he really came alive out of nowhere and closed the show. Also closed the show against this guy, Quentin Parks, in the same way, ground and pound, at almost the same moment in round 2. Beat the guy, Keegan Genrick, who I talked about earlier, for somebody else. But that was a fight where he looked really good early. Then I thought he slowed down, but he put his foot back on the gas and reclaimed control of the fight. He beat this guy in round 3 in his last fight, Dozmatov, and that was a really good performance in the LFA. He actually hit the mousetrap, the Demetrius Johnson armbar that he hit on Ray Borg, the jumping, pivoting armbar, such a fucking weird move, but such a high-level move, and he almost locked it up. I mean, he had it locked up, just couldn't close the show, and then eventually beat the guy down anyway. But he's definitely got round 3 cardio. Anytime I've seen him, whether it's blasting a guy through the cage, coming back, or hitting a mouse trap, I have a lot more faith in this guy's cardio. And of course, even though I haven't seen every fight, I've got a lot more faith in him having seen more fights, these 4 fights since coming back after the scare against Jack Della Maddalena. And of course, he's fought better opposition, Melvin Gillard notwithstanding. But even though I think Melvin got a victory recently. But Josiah Harrell, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me with all of these traits and skills in every direction if he's the guy to outlast Jacobe Smith, put him in a bad predicament when he's gasping for air, where Nico Price or Christian Savoy could not, or the two guys that he beat by decision. So Josiah Harrell, he's sitting at, I think, plus 265. I won't look to bet on his money line because just with the leverage and the height and all that, and Jacobe Smith's skills, I think the decision would go to Jacobe. But Josiah Harrell taking over, doing his thing, and winning down the stretch where Jacobe Smith's not faced adversity, that's something where I'll put a few sprinkles on that. And I'll do that comfortably, of course, because my sprinkles are like 17 cents. But the pick, no doubt, is Jacobe Smith wins by decision. He's not Mr. Decisionator himself, but he's won by decision in the past. I think Josiah Harrell's got skills that will force him to slow this fight down. And I've got the story of his victory being his size and wrestling. So, again, long-winded shit, huh? Next up, we have Sergey Spivac versus Ante Delija. My prediction for this fight is Spivac wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is I'm a jerk off. There's no way he's going to win a decision. I don't know why I'm picking that, but that's what I'm picking. Spivac is certainly dangerous enough on his own to stop any fight from going the distance. He's a monster, certainly when he gets on top. And on the flip side, Ante Delija, I think if he wins, it's probably a round one knockout. I think that is far and away his most likely path to victory. But I've got Spivac keeping himself safe. I think Delija is going to be bringing it to him. I envision him being aggressive and trying to get his hands on Spivac. Again, I mean, put his hands on Spivac. I think Spivac will be trying to get his hands on Delija and also trying to keep things at kicking range where Spivac is better. But if he doesn't get knocked out, and I do think he's got to get through round one, I just envision Spivac being better down the stretch. Certainly on top, I think Delia's got a big body that's going to be difficult to move around at first. But I think once he gets tired, Spivac has shown he's still got takedowns down the stretch, even when he's looked tired himself. And of course, if he can take it down from the beginning, he'll just take it down 10 times in a round like he did to Derek Lewis. So that's always a possibility. But I do think he will eventually break down Delija and start to take over the fight. If he can take him down, chances are he closes a show, I'd say. But if he's got difficulty taking him down and keeping him down, I still think Spivac is the better man on the feet down the stretch. I think Delija will resort to trying to make this a grueling, grimy, clinch-heavy fight and really slow it down. And Spivac, not that he's going to be flying around like Frankie Edgar. He's a big, gigantic heavyweight. But I just envision him being in better shape down the stretch. And he's the younger man as well. And again, I think he can do a whole world of damage on the ground, get on top of you. He advances, gets to the mount. He'll put you away by submission or TKO. Again, I don't know why I picked him to win by decision. But on the feet, if he can't get Delija down easily, I still think Spivac is going to be the quicker man. The quicker man, I think he'll be able to manage his range better, get his kicks going. When Delija slows down from what I envision will be a quick start. What I imagine will be a quick start. I think it's just what he's looking to do. He trains with Tom Aspinall. He knows Spivac's been caught cold a few times, and I believe he's going to be hunting his chin. And Delija's been getting his hands on everybody. He was halfway there to a victory against Waldo Cortez Acosta in his last fight before things got turned around after the eye poke. But he still looked good offensively. And speaking of which, I thought Sergey Spivak was very competitive against Waldo Cortez Acosta. I thought he won that fight. I thought that was a bad decision. Can't call it a robbery, but I thought Spivak won that fight, and he was not able to ragdoll Waldo easily. But he's a guy that's got takedowns down the stretch, and he's got what I imagine will be better cardio. And I think his skill set hits the surface when Ante Delija starts getting tired. I've got Spivak winning. I'm definitely not married to him winning by decision. I've just played his money line at plus 130. I haven't hedged with Delija, but I do think Delia's primary path to victory can be found here at plus 220, and that's a round one knockout. I just think when he's firing on all cylinders, he can catch him cold. But again, I envision Spivak being the better man down the stretch, which I could totally be wrong about. And it's not like I haven't seen every fight I can get my hands on with Ante Delija. I watch him fight in the PFL anyway. Remember his 5-round war with Bruno Capelozza, the second fight. And I think he's definitely proven he's got a bunch of great traits, but he's 35 years old. He's which is pretty young for a heavyweight, I guess. But for a fighter altogether, it's old. He's got a lot of mileage. And Sergey Spivak, he has not slowed down. Again, I think he should have a win over Waldo, and I think he's looked pretty good himself lately. So Spivak is the pick, and Spivak is the bet. And I don't think I'm playing anything else, although it depends on how much money I lose before this fight. Next up, we have Melk Costa taking on Dan Ige. My prediction for this fight is Dan Ige wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I have no confidence in that prediction whatsoever. Not the method of victory, anyway. I do think Dan certainly has a shot at a knockout. He's got that Dan Ige power. And that is the basis for my prediction. Even without him getting the knockout, I think he's going to be able to dictate things with his power. Melk is bigger. He's taller anyway. These guys actually have the same reach, I believe. So Dan, I think if he's beating him to the punch, his power is really going to carry the fight. But even if Melk is putting up the better numbers, Dan Ige still has really sharp, timely counters. And he's got an incredibly sharp right hand. And I think he's going to be getting the better of Melk on the feet. And I also have to say, Dan Ige's been fighting better fighters and certainly better athletes. So Dan Ige's numbers, I just don't trust stats. They don't take everything into consideration. But I still look at them. But anyway, yeah, Melk on paper is the more active guy. But here I think Melk Costa, once he gets a taste of that power, he's going to be looking to slow things down. He's going to be looking to tie up and out grapple Dan, which he might be able to do. But I still think Dan Ige, he's well-rounded, really good in general at takedown defense and grappling defense. And I think he's fought, again, a better class of opponent than Melk Costa. Although Melk is 29 years old, he's on a really good winning streak, a 5-fight winning streak, a lot of finishes. He's in his prime right now, so he could be turning a corner here. But even if he does, one thing I'm sure of is he's not going to finish Dan Ige. He's totally going to finish him now. But I trust Dan Ige's durability. Dan is getting up there, but he's still, I think, 34 years old. And that's why I always look to play Dan Ige as I try to pull it up. Dan Ige's point spread, especially as an underdog. And I've played him. He's got minus 165 for plus 3.5 points. I played 5.5 points at minus 220, wherever it is. But I also like Dan Ige's money line. Dan Ige's money line plus 164. Like I said, I'm picking him to win by decision, but I'm not married to it. Dan's a scary enough guy, so I'm just happy with the money line. Although if he wins by decision, I'll be telling you that I bet decision at plus 550, because that's the kind of jerk off that I am. But Melk Costa, look, like I said, I'm playing the point spread because if Melk was to win at all, it'd be by decision. And I consider that his only path to victory, despite him knocking guys dead lately. Morgan Sharier, of all people, who I also considered to be in that Dan Ige class of durability. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about here. But Melk Costa, minus 130. That's pretty much what I consider his money line here, because that's his that covers all paths to victory as far as my deluded brain is concerned. But Dan Ige is the pick. Dan Ige is the bet, and I've padded some parlays with Dan Ige's point spread. But I'm trusting in the veteran out to outgun and to next level Melk Costa. And in the co-main event of the evening, we have Jeff Neal taking on Uros Medic. And I have finally gotten that name correct. I'm going to go with Jeff Neal winning, and I've got him winning by round one knockout. And I'm not too confident in that prediction. I'm a little more confident in round one knockout without giving a name. But the name I'm going to give is Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, I think he's still incredibly dangerous. And Uros Medic, he's been knocked out before and he's been clipped a bunch. He's definitely susceptible. And that's what I have going down here in round one. But speaking of susceptibility, Jeff Neal, he's been knocked out twice, actually, but once many years ago to Kevin Holland back 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And then he was knocked out 6 months ago to the day, actually, against Carlos Prates. And that was a bad knockout, a spinning back elbow right to the side of the head, and he went down. And he's now 35 years old. So there's a little bit of concern there. He's getting older, just suffered a major blow, and he's fighting a guy in Uros Medic who is nothing but finishes. Uros Medic has never been to a decision in all 15 of his fights. He lives and dies by the sword, and it typically goes down early. His last 4 fights have been in round one. His last three of them have been practically inside of a minute. Okay, a minute and 3 seconds in his last two. But he's very dangerous, and I think this one's going to be a firefight pretty quickly. I do think this is going to be a southpaw firefight. I've got Jeff Neal getting the better of him, but my second prediction is Uros Medic knocks out Jeff Neal for the second consecutive time. I think, and I would go with that happening in round one in a minute and 3 seconds, I guess. Why not? But yeah, I don't think Uros Medic knows any other way to fight. I think they're going to get after it pretty quickly. Jeff Neal, I think he's got a little bit more pop on his punches, and he's actually got a comfortable reach advantage. Despite being 2 inches shorter, he's got 4 inches of reach. And Jeff Neal, I would think, would be the one to mix in some grappling and things, but I don't think it's going to get there. I don't think it's even going to be too much about any leg kicks or anything. I think this is just going to be a firefight with the hands. Jeff Neal is all about the hands. I've got him getting the better of Uros Medic after a wild minute and a half, let's say. But I don't have any confidence in that prediction. Despite Medic having been knocked out in his last loss, he was knocked out against Soriano in 30 seconds with a big combination, but really a big looping right hook. He was nearly TKO'd against Jalen Turner. He was knocked around against Matthew Semmelsberger. Gilbert Urbina even knocked him down in the first 30 seconds, I guess, of that 63-second fight. Yeah, he's definitely susceptible, Uros Medic. But yeah, I think this fight is tough to trust. It's tough to trust either guy. Jeff Neal is minus 185 right now. I don't have a bet on him. I have a bet on the under at minus 180, under a round and a half. Again, I think this is a firefight and it gets going pretty quickly. But in general, I'm staying away from this. I'm not making any real plays. And I think, regardless of what happens, this is going to end in a finish. And there's a great chance someone's getting a bonus here. So Jeff Neal's the pick, but the knockout is the real pick. And in the main event of the evening, we have Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Sean Strickland. My prediction for this fight is Sean Strickland wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And I'm not too confident in that prediction either. What do you want from me? I'm going with Sean. I'm not too confident in the prediction, and also if he was to win, I can't be too confident in the decision, despite Sean Strickland really being a good point fighter. But I think Fluffy Hernandez, if he was to have one weakness, it'd be his body. And I can't say it's a thing, but it's something I've speculated on. In fact, I think I picked Michel P to beat him with a body shot early in round one. And that did not happen, but he did hurt him to the body. And that did confirm my suspicions that if I was coaching a fighter, I would tell him, make your shots count to the body. Build your whole game plan around body shots. And Sean Strickland, while he may not be the most powerful guy and he's not always aiming for the kill, he is a guy that brings the volume and he already brings the body shots. I mean, he's got the teep. That's one of his major weapons. He teeps, he jabs, he shells up. I think he's going to be a difficult guy for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to fight his fight. Fluffy's going to be looking to crowd him with big power shots and shoot in on his legs. Each takedown's going to come easier than the last. The first one's going to be really difficult. But that's Fluffy's game, is going through the fire, getting you down, and then doing it a little more easily in the next round, and more easily until you're done. But Sean Strickland is one of the few guys that I think can match the cardio of Fluffy, even though he does it in a totally different way. And I will say the cardio of Fluffy is much more impressive. Much more impressive. I mean, what he's doing in there is exhausting. What Sean Strickland's doing is not as exerting. It's not as exhausting. But Sean Strickland is still a guy who breaks you with pressure. And I think if he keeps his fight standing, he's winning this fight. I think he wins with his pressure, with his volume, with his teep kicks to the body, which might produce him big moments and even a finish. And I think this is going to be a really interesting clash. I wouldn't be surprised if either guy kind of ran away with things for the last few rounds, if it should go that long, because that's how these guys fight. They're both cardio fighters. But I do think this is going to be a mixed bag type of fight. I think this is going to be a mixed bag with mixed rounds. And I've got it being a competitive one, but Sean Strickland not succumbing to the pressure of Fluffy like everyone else has, where those takedowns don't come more easily and more easily. And Sean Strickland is doing his thing, shelling up, walking down Fluffy, and starting to gain in confidence and throw with a little bit more meaning as the fight goes on. And then talking shit as he's walking him down in the final 10 seconds. You want to go? I'll fucking go to the death right now, bro. And then the bell rings. He's like, all right, bro. Good fight. But Sean Strickland is the pick. Of course, if I'm wrong, I've got Fluffy dominating down the stretch, doing the Fluffy thing. I would still pick Fluffy to get a decision over finish, but it's not something I could trust. The over is actually minus 145 for over 4.5 rounds. It's more or less the decision line. And yeah, I favor it to go the distance, but these guys have 5 rounds to finish each other, and they're both accelerating cardio fighters. Sean Strickland, I think he's got a better chance than normal of getting the knockout. So I've put a few sprinkles on getting the knockout early, just because I feel like Fluffy's got some weakness there, and I'm assuming Sean's been made aware of it and might be attacking the body. But as for Fluffy, this is the first time I can recall where a fighter's props get worse as the fight goes on. You'll see here, if you can look here, the TKO props are starting at 4,000 for round one and ending at plus 2,500 in round five. Even guys that are bona fide cardio fighters, it gets better as the rounds go, as the fight goes deeper. A round five finish is always better, even for Marab. But here, this is the first time I can recall where a fighter's cardio hits the surface, and it's reflected in the betting lines. So everybody's already all over it. They know who Fluffy is. And yeah, if he was to win, it would be, I believe, in the second half of the fight. Not that he hasn't knocked guys out in round one. But the pick here again is Sean Strickland, and the bet is Sean Strickland. Right now he's plus 225. I've got him winning by decision, which is plus 550. They actually have the knockout line is a little better, plus 500. But yeah, those are pretty much not my thoughts. TKO or decision. I can go either way, but I think Sean Strickland marches him down, hunts the body, and grows in confidence as the fight goes on and as the takedowns are stuffed. Sean Strickland is the pick. Sean Strickland is the bet. And I hope this is an excellent fucking fight. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos. I'm back, baby. All right.